right. Good morning. I'm Laura Lohman, and I work with the Division of District Support, and I'm the point of contact for Saar. I'm going to be just discussing the Saar application and some of the things that we get a lot of questions on during that Saar submission. So the Saar is due in the system by June 30th. The system is going to open on May the 15th. So with that June 30th deadline, we do have a hard stop and it won't allow you to submit after that date. So if you have any issues with that deadline, you'll need to reach out to me so that I can allow the system to be open for you to submit if you have a specific issue for that. And we just highly encourage that you submit and verify all of your reports as soon as you can after the last student day of the year. And keep in mind that SAR cannot be verified until your amended calendar has been approved. If
Laura,
you've been doing
Laura, take control, please.
Okay. Thank you. If you've been doing all of your monthly cleanup reports, it's going to make the submission process much easier, and I'll go into details on that on the next few slides. So this is the SAR application and the window that you will see whenever you log in. District users and finance officers and superintendents all have access to log into the system using their Microsoft credentials. Once you're in the application, whatever cycle that is active will be shown in green, like you see highlighted on the screen here. This is the details tab. It's going to provide your basic district information that's pulled in from SHRM. If your address has changed, there isn't a way for you to actually update that in the system. So that's something that has to be done on our end. So you can just reach out to me and I'll have our system development team update that for you. This is the district users tab. So this is going to be all of the users within your district that have access. So the superintendent, this is going to be the one that has access to verify your final reports, and they actually receive an email whenever it's time to do that. The finance officer has just view rights, view only rights, and then the district user has access to upload and edit the files, basically full rights for the submission. And this would be like your DPP or any assistant DPP who may need access to actually submit the SAR file. So you'll just want to check this yearly to make sure that the active users are correct. And you'll see there under where it says active, it'll say yes or no. So they stay in the system even after we get them deactivated. So sometimes that causes a bit of confusion. But if you have a user that needs to be deactivated, you can just email me and have them marked as inactive. And then if you need to request a new user, this is where you would do that. So it's report manager and then request new user. You'll just fill in all of the information and click submit, and it's going to actually trigger an email notification to me. And once the person has been added, they'll get an email saying that they can log in to the application using their Microsoft credentials. So when you put this in, it's not something that happens automatically. You have to go in and manually do it. So it does take some time after you've requested a new user for me to do that. All right, data cleanup. This should be done prior to pulling your SAR file, and all of these are reports that you should be running monthly to just ensure that your data is clean prior to your SAR submission. I'm going to talk about all of these kind of more in detail as we go on, and the ones that cause the most issues with the SAR submission. But if you're running these monthly, whenever you go to do your SAR submission, it makes things a lot easier, just a more seamless process. And then just be sure that you have, if you have virtual and performance-based courses, that the passing grade is put on the grading tab and not on the transcript. So we have actually had issues with this. If you don't put the final grade on the grading tab, you will not get funding for any virtual and performance-based students. So we just want to make sure that you're putting the grade in the correct place to get that funding. So these are the 10 focus areas for the SAR. So it's going to look at your calendar, your enrollment and re-enrollment withdrawals, ethnic count, aggregate attendance, non-contract, overage, underage, and home hospital. And then it's going to look at your 10 low weather attendance days, your 5 low attendance days, the non-traditional, virtual, suspension, and expulsion. All right, this is a big one when we do the SAR and growth factor submission. So the state enrollment overlap report, the new path in Infinite Campus is student information reports, state enrollment overlap. You'll just want to make sure that you're running this before you do your SAR submission. This is one of the reports that actually go in and manually check. So if you have any enrollment overlaps within other districts, we will not be able to process your SAR application. So a 1 day overlap is what is allowed. So anything that's over that, we would reach out to you and ask that you fix. And sometimes the enrollment overlap is outside of your district and not something you can fix on your end. So in that case, you'll have to reach out to the other district to work with them to get it corrected. But the biggest issue we see with this is there's also a report that's just called enrollment overlap report. And so some people are running only the enrollment overlap report and not the state enrollment overlap report. So this report is the one that's going to show you any reports that you have that are actually outside of your district. Okay, the missing enrollment in status. This is another one that causes a lot of issues with the SAR. So the new path is going to be reporting, ad hoc reporting, filter designer, state published, and then it is student ENR in date with no in status. So all students who have been indated must also have an in status put in. So that's something that's really easy to miss within Infinite Campus, but it does cause an issue when you submit your SAR. So any students that are indated have to get an in status, and this is going to cause like a record 1 issue when you're submitting your growth factor, and it's usually going to be a record 5 issue when it's submitting your SAR. And then once you get that corrected, it should clear those errors where you could resubmit. This is going to be your path to locate student schedule gaps. So Kentucky State Reporting, KDE reports, schedule gap report. You will want to correct any gaps for any dates shown on this report, and you'll perform this for any withdrawn students as well. So if you don't set up a placeholder for virtual and performance-based courses, it will show a gap in the schedule. And there could actually be a reason for the gap, and that's fine. This report's just designed to show students with a gap as a warning in case it is something that needs to be corrected. So the audit missing T codes, this report is to find any T codes that may be missing. All students should have a T code associated with their student enrollment record. If there is no T code for the student, then it's going to automatically mark that student as non-transport, and then you won't get any transportation funding for that student. And then this is the path for those overlapping T codes. So reporting, ad hoc reporting, filter designer, state published, and you just can't have any T codes that overlap. So you'll want to run this to make sure that you don't have overlapping T codes. Overage, underage, this is the path that will identify those, and it's going to be reporting, Kentucky State Reporting, edit reports, and the SAR report. So it's one of those detail reports, and it's R9. If you have any underage students with a waiver box checked, you'll get a record 9 warning when you're submitting the SAR, and I think it causes a record 4 with the growth factor. You'll be able to resolve this by explaining that you have an underage student. So this isn't one of those that can actually be cleared when you do your SAR submission. It's always going to cause like a flag or a warning that you have an error on your SAR and growth factor. So it's one of those that you just have to put a note in saying that you have an underage student, that you have that waiver box checked. And I usually go in and check those as well. And then this is that detail report like I was talking about in the other slide. So it's going to give you like a school level listing of all students who appear on those SAR records. So you can run this for overage, underage attendance, home hospital, virtual and performance-based, out of school suspensions, and expulsions. And those are just run under the SAR report. And you, instead of selecting all reports, you'll do detail and then whichever one of those reports you want to run. All right, SAR 10, House Bill 241 allows districts flexibility for school district calendars for the 24-25 school year. If districts do not use the 5 disaster relief student days, then those 5 additional NTI days, that would be those 5 additional NTI days, or have days waived after June 4th, then your district may choose to drop 10 low weather days instead of those traditional 5. The SAR 10 is a separate report from the SAR report. And so dropping the low 10 is completely optional. Just keep in mind that using the low 10 weather days will change your denominator, and we're not sure how this may affect your transportation funding. So that's just something to think about when you're trying to decide if you're going to drop the traditional 5 or drop 10 low weather days. If you go in now, the SAR 10 report is not available in Infinite Campus, so we will be providing more details when this report comes available. And from my understanding, it's going to be a separate report. You'll see the SAR report, and then you're going to see a SAR 10 report. So if you choose to submit the SAR 10, then you would just select that report to upload into the SAR system instead of the traditional SAR report. It's going to pull all that same data just with those extra 5 days. So you're going to create your SAR file just like you always have in the past. So reporting, Kentucky State Reporting SAR, you'll run the state format fixed width for all schools and then leave the date range blank. You're going to select all reports, all calendars, and then generate your report. And the file name does have to be specific for the SAR system to actually take your file. So it should be SAR, your 3-digit district number, and 2-digit school year. So 25 for this year. And then just make sure that you're saving it as fixed width to upload into the system. That's the file type that it takes. Whatever report cycle we're in is what you're going to see highlighted in green when you go in to submit your SAR. So once you've pulled your file from Infinite Campus, you'll just log into the system and go to SAR and upload file. It will walk you through the file upload, and the system is designed to only accept the correct file name, like we talked about. This is the details tab. It's going to show you detailed reports for all the records submitted, just broke down like you see here. So it's going to pull in all of those things that the SAR looks at, like your calendar days, enrollments, withdrawals, etc. And this report, if you go to the reports tab, that's where you're going to see your PDF of reports. So all of those reports will have a draft watermark on them until your superintendent and KDE has verified your final submission, and then your final reports will be in there without the draft watermark. Once your report is verified by KDE, your superintendent will be able to deny or approve the file. They will receive an email that it's time to verify the submission, and at that point, the verification email only goes to the superintendent. The district user, whoever uploaded the file, doesn't also get notice or notification. So sometimes I will have to go in and add a comment under the messages tab of your submission so that it will notify you that it is ready for your superintendent to sign off on it. So they'll just receive an email that it's time to verify. If the superintendent denies the submission, you're going to see denied with a response of why, and KDE and the district user is notified whenever the superintendent does this. If it's approved, the file status is going to change to verified by the district, which finalizes the submission process in the application. And at this point, you can view your final reports. So this is the report managers tab that's going to show all of the PDFs of historical reports. From here, you can toggle into other cycles and prior years, and just note that district level reports do have that draft watermark until the final approval is complete from KDE, but all of the historical reports have been uploaded here. So you can toggle between years, and this is a good time to just view your final reports and compare them to previous years for just data quality purposes. So I can take any questions at this point. Rhonda is actually going to take a few minutes to talk about the SAR reports and the calculation breakdown if we don't have questions.
Hey, Laura, I'll jump in here and read questions for you if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Because I'm trying to answer some of them as we go along over in the side. First question was asked early, and it was asked how you add the 5 additional low attendance days that the legislature granted. That's from 241, and I think you covered that there's not anything out there right now, but hang out for a little while. We're hoping to get you all some additional information on the SAR 10 report that Laura has discussed. We're hoping that'll be available mid-May to end of May to get out for districts. So
and it should pull those days in automatically, your 10 low weather days, just kind of like it does for the 5 if you select the SAR 10.
Correct. We haven't seen it yet. It's still being built, so we're hoping. The way we're understanding it is, normally you click that little button and it loads 5 days. We're under the impression that you click the little button for SAR 10 and it's going to load 10 days. So we'll get access to that hopefully here in the next couple of weeks and do some testing on it, and be able to give you some better guidance on exactly how to use it when we roll it out. Next question is, will we be able to see the difference in transportation funding during the 5 days prior to submission? And what's the potential loss to transportation? I don't mind to answer that if you want me to, Laura.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you want me to answer? You want to go on?
I don't think.
Well, we're going to look at the transportation report, and the calculation is based on the number of days transported. So we'll look at that, but again, we don't know if there'll be any specific change on that. But if we look at the low 5 as we normally do, we calculate on the days transported.
So you will be able to see in those 2 different reports, a change in your ADA. You'll be able to see, ADA numbers being different by running the SAR, dropping 5 days or dropping 10 days. It's hard to say on transportation because everybody needs to, it's hard to remember. Transportation leans, the way that formula works, it leans on everybody else. So it's dependent also upon everybody else's numbers and what they're coming in as. There is a, part of it that deals with efficiency. The days should be pulled out of there, so we can't speak to how that's going to affect efficiency, but it's not as simple as just the ADA calculation. That's why we're saying we don't know exactly what's going to happen on that side of it. A similar question here is, would there be any benefit to not using the SAR 10 if our district did not use the 5 disaster days? I noticed it said the district could use the SAR 10, wanted to make sure there wasn't any drawbacks to using it. It is an option. It was written into legislation as an option that districts can. It's not a must. It's not a requirement that you drop these 10 days, but you can drop these 10 days. The potential drawbacks is, kind of what we're discussing here, what Rhonda was discussing, with the transportation. We can't exactly say what's going to happen with it because it depends on everyone's numbers kind of, leaning on each other and that denominator that is going to change. Let me see. I think I have grabbed all of our questions so far, and I'm going to type some of those answers back there in case you missed some of our going over it. But Rhonda, I'm going to let you kind of roll through some of these calculations. I may jump in if we get some more questions and pause you so that we make sure we get all the questions answered while we're on here. That's okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. I just wanted to briefly go over the 4 reports that you will see from Saar. So Saar is broken down into the attendance summary report, the attendance adjustment report, and then you have the T-code comparison and then the transportation summary. So on that reports tab that Laura was mentioning earlier is where you'll find your 4 reports. The Saar attendance summary report and the adjustment report work together as a team. So that's kind of, and I got a lot of questions about the adjustments and not really understanding it. So that's why I wanted to break this down a little bit. So this is the attendance summary report, and columns, anytime you see a 1, that column is always going to be kindergarten, and then the 2 columns are the grades 1 through 12. So on the columns A1 and A2, I've kind of labeled them up at the top just to help. That is the aggregate attendance coming in, and you'll find that on record 7 on the SAR. And so this is before any adjustments and anything that's been taken out. It's just the number coming in from record 7. And also you'll see on this page, I have the calculations for each column, and I've used the numbers from the report so that you can take your numbers and plug them in and do the same thing and look and see how it works out. And then you'll also notice that you'll have last year's ADA and then any weather days that were low or NTI over as well on this report. So on the attendance adjustment report, these are the things that come out, and we're going to look, this is for that column C. And then you have your performance and virtual suspension and expulsion that are added back in. So when you're trying to figure out where these numbers came from for this C column, it goes back, you have to go back and look at the other report. So that's all the adjustments coming out. So we take out the 5 low, and then if you're doing the SAR 10, it would be the 10 low. So you'll see that on the other report. And then we add back in, as I said, the virtual performance-based suspensions and expulsions. So that's where this C column comes from. And then for the D, that is the substituted days. And we take last year's ADA, we multiply that number with the amount of low weather days that you've claimed plus your NTI days if you have any. And then that number is also seen on the adjustment report, and we'll look at that as well. And then your column E for both kindergarten and grades 1 through 12, that is that full aggregate attendance, that's the A minus those adjustments from C, the column C. And then the F columns, these are that full AADA, and that's the number that you'll see when you're looking at your SAR. A lot of the questions will be, where is that AADA? And that's these 2 columns. And that is the adjustments plus the substituted days, and then that's divided by the number of days in the school year. And again, if you're 5 low, then it's minus those 5, or if you're doing the SAR 10, then it would be the minus 10 in that calculation. So that's where it'll change that calculation if you decided to do the 10 low. And again, I'm going back to that. This is that adjustment report. There is the D columns combined. So I've got the calculation for the C and how you're taking all of these columns out in that calculation and then kind of adding it back in. And a lot of people don't understand that the two have to work together. And that's why I wanted to just go over it. And then you can plug in your own numbers to see how that works. And then these slides really are just to show you where it comes from. So here's that record 7. Record 7 is here. And then you'll see A1 and A2. Those are those two combined. And then again, I have the calculation in red. And then again, just some further explanation about these adjustments and how that works. So I won't spend a lot of time on each one, but I wanted to just call attention to it so you'll know or understand it a little bit further when you have some time to really break it down. And again, for your substituted days. And then again, showing that calculation where it goes back to the adjustment report and it's the same number for D. And then your adjusted reported calculation. And then the AADA that we discussed. And here's that, so a typical traditional 170-day minus the 5 low. So this would be, if you did a SAR 10, it would be the minus 10. So that's how it'll affect that calculation. This is the T-code comparison report. So now the T-code comparison report and the T-code summary report work together. And what I love about this report is that you can look at your current year and then you also look at your previous. So for instance, for your T1, if these numbers are way off, then there might be something wrong. You need to investigate, make sure that you have all the T codes in correctly for your students. Sometimes you'll notice that the NT will be up and then something else will be less. So that is because either you have a lot of kids being transported by mom and dad, or you don't have your T codes in right, and the system will automatically show that as non-transport. So that is why this report is so valuable, because you can really compare year to year very easily. And then you'll notice I have the calculations that go along with your summary report. And so if you, for your T1 reported, it's the T1 plus half of T3, and then that's divided by the number of days transported. And so that would be your T1 ADA. And so that's just to kind of maybe help explain it a little bit, and you can plug your numbers in and see. But that again would be on the total days transported. I don't know if there are any questions on that section, Jesse.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute button. No, I think we are good to go. I think we've answered everything that came in for Saar. I know we're maybe 2 minutes early here. I would just take the 2 minutes to remind everybody to, if you are thinking about using that SAR 10 and wanting to drop those 10 low attendance days, keep your eye out for an email. It will come from Rhonda. And then normally your Ksis contacts also get that forwarded to them. It'll come from Rhonda, go to your DPPs, and we'll give a lot more description and instructions on how to run that report and more information about that report when it's available after hopefully we've tested it at KDE and had some time to look at it and can maybe answer some more of your questions in that guidance as well.